Hi, everybody. My name is Arik, and I am so happy to talk to you about what's going on in the cosmos starting from April 17th. It's really interesting process, actually. Is we're having a series of 7 weeks that are going to give us like a strong opportunity to, I guess, like the best way to explain it is to kind of travel and surf the structures of reality that so many different sages have explained and written and taught about, and we see it in so many spiritual systems and so many different structures. And it's really interesting because this whole process that we are going through is essentially setting up the parameters for a huge download of energy, a huge opportunity for us on June 5th. So the process begins at the end of Aries, and then it's going to end in the middle of Gemini. And Gemini is an archetype that is represented by the lovers from the tarot. And the tarot is a set of secrets of um, all kinds of reality, things that, like, telling us about the powerful archetypes essentially from the origins of creation. So, all right, so these are huge concepts I'm trying to deliver properly because really, you guys, I think in the most simple way to explain this is that this is about our relationships. And this is about our relationships with other people and also our relationships with ourselves. And so many times in our life, relationships can bring us up, drop us down, push us out by ourselves, bring us up into, like, groups and all kinds of stuff. And the lover's archetype is, unfortunately, the tarot, just really quickly, has been diminished into fortune telling, but it's so much more than that. There's so much power to understand because they're like mirrors and portals to kind of help us understand what is that human experience that we're here living. So, with the lover's archetype, we learn how to cultivate and understand what that love is within us. So, rather than running and around and rushing to get like the next love fix from somebody, we can look within ourselves and then we can share that with other people. And that's just the way that it's done. And here you see, the lover's archetype from the tarot deck that we created, is right here. And what's really important about the lover, so we need 7 weeks to prepare to enter into that Gemini season, at the middle of the Gemini season. We need these 7 weeks to prepare for it because the lovers is about communication. How many times do we have communication errors, for example? The lovers is also about frameworks. What are we operating within? It's about the relationships. So it's about, in the relationships, are we open? Are we honest? Are we present? It's also, we learn with this archetype that it's the union of opposite yet complementary parts within ourselves. All right? And what's really important about it is that it's about acceptance of any situation, um, and having that tolerance. Doesn't mean like we can just let people treat us like in any kind of way, but it's, I mean, accepting situations and also having the priorities, okay? Having the priorities. Very, very, very important. We need to have those priorities intact. Otherwise, it's just going to be like all kinds of madness, and we end up in an archetype called the devil. And if we are all over the place and we're being codependent, then we you can see we kind of downgrade a little bit. So we want to avoid that. So we have these 7 weeks to help us to kind of understand what's going on with that, and with the priorities. they kind of are determining the tasks that we need to take in our life. And so we're often so at the mercy of what is our priority, and we kind of have to accept that we allow priorities to determine what our actions are. And our actions are going to determine what we attract. And there are different types of priorities for different types of relationships, okay? And it's really cool because God can work through at all the different levels depending on what our priorities are. And what I mean by that is that God works through our relationships. So many times we're waiting for these signs. We want to see the signs. We don't understand the signs. But the thing is that a lot of the times the signs come through people because God works through people at many different layers. And I say that because there are many different types of relationships. You have soulmate relationships, which are the highest. And then you have twin flame relationships, which is one below. And then you have starmate relationships. And then we have also like karmic relationships, what so many people call like toxic relationships if the karma is not being worked out. And like I said earlier, that relationships, they can really destroy us, or they can also create a platform to create something amazing and something really inspirational. And of course, our relationship with the divine is the most important, because if we're trying to supplement or substitute our relationship with the divine with other people, we're gonna crash. Okay, so we know that God is working through others, and so many of us know that life is about relationships, but there are so many things that come up when we talk about relationships with others, with the divine, or with the process. We have relationships to work, how we do things, manifestation, our crafts, our skills. We have these different relationships to all these different processes. Now, many of us feel that when we have positive relationships, our energy is high. But the truth is that when our energy is positive, or when our energy is high, then we have positive relationships. So it's not the relationship that gives us the positivity or the high energy. It's our high energy that makes the relationship positive. And it has to be working, obviously, because it takes two. Otherwise, and it's also true for ourselves, like our relationship with ourselves and with our work and stuff like that. So this 7-week process is preparing us for that day within the Gemini season, which can help us to access our soulmate energy. So that is meaning that we want to be the right person so that we can be with the right person. And it might, and that could be in any area of your life. So it might not happen right away, but it will enhance current relationships and help us work on patterns that are in the way of fulfilling relationships, past, present, current, future relationships. So we need to prepare ourselves to really work on any issues that are going to arise. And these are the programs that we have to kind of reprogram, that we have to rewrite. Now, for example, we all know, hopefully, maybe we know this, but we don't really live by that we cannot really rely on other people to make us happy. We cannot rely on places or things to make us happy. But once you realize, but the paradox is that once you realize that, they can enhance and help you to grow your happiness, okay? Because we're not islands, we're here to have relationships and be connected. We don't want to be dependent, but we work together to do it. So this 7-week journey is going to allow us to access 7 different aspects of ourselves, 7 days a week, so a total of 49 days, so that we can really kind of purify and cleanse 7 of the 10 dimensions that we know from that science tells us about. Superstring theory, which is science's, best attempt at describing the structures of the universe, which, like I said, so many sages have known about for a really long time. But, the information has been like scrambled and suppressed and encoded and all kinds of stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about that so that we know what is this journey through the Tree of Life. You see here on the screen, this is a depiction of the 10 dimensions. And there are so many teachings about the 10 dimensions, like I said, that have been suppressed, like in two accounts. First, by the sages who wanted to kind of protect the information, and then also like what you could call like the anti-sages who wanted to keep it for themselves and away from the layman, so to speak. But living in this century now, people are so consumed with bettering themselves and so consumed and obsessed with the material world that it's really a miracle if anybody can really see and value the understanding that this has to offer. So there's really we don't have to worry so much about the possible misuse of it, because in order to really use the knowledge, you have to understand it. You have to have a good heart, a good mind, strong mind. But really, if you really study this, the 10 dimensions, you can understand the subatomic particles and the structures and the substructures of the universe. But superstring theory is now really able to tell us that there are 10 dimensions, and I can take it a step further, that we have these 22 pathways that uphold our entire reality. And these 22 pathways are, ruled by the 22 major arcana, okay? And every particle in and of the universe has these 22 archetypes within it, down to some subatomic level. And this really, you guys, more than explains, once again, why so many religions have used one variation of what's called the Tree of Life when and why we study and we work with the tarot, because it's really giving us a strong image of how we can use these energies and kind of direct and unblock the channels of manifestation. So the Tree of Life really helps us a lot, especially on the spiritual journey. For example, one characteristic of the Tree of Life is another tree, another set of dimensions. So it's almost like looking into a mirror, looking into a mirror, looking into a mirror, looking into a mirror. And this is how it starts to get really complicated, but also really beautiful. So it's kind of like also if you look inside of a tree, like how a new ring of growth is every year, like every circle represents another part of the core. Every dimension has within it 10 dimensions within it, and then you have the 10 levels. So what we need to know is that the level, the tree of one level may be easier than level 2, just like a video game. Okay, so level 1 is easier than level 2, level 2 is easier than level 3. So when you embark on level 1, you're met with obstacles, and this is really a metaphor for our spiritual journey. We get on the spiritual path, and we start using the tools like this one, and things start to really make sense, and say, oh my God, we're going to keep doing it. And then we get the prize, and we're so happy because it's something we did and we executed it and it worked, and oh my God, it's amazing. Then you come to level 2 and the challenge is more difficult and you fail. And that's because it's a new level. You're met with new obstacles and there's new challenges. And then we tend to think, our ego mind tends to think, oh my God, this spirituality thing sucks. It doesn't work. Now, nobody can really be victorious with this kind of attitude. Maybe you feel like you've fallen, but really you haven't. And the only thing that makes you fall is that kind of bad attitude. So we always have to know that today's low is higher than yesterday's high. Okay? Level 2 is higher than level 1. So if you fail within level 2, you're still higher than level 1, which means that we have to learn. And this is amazing. We have to learn new tools. We have to learn how can we get past level 2 so that we can get to level 3, and that's that constant journey of life. So because all of us have fallen collectively since the beginning of time, we see this and the metaphors of the Garden of Eden and different metaphors and all kinds of, we are fragmented, unhealed, splintered. Our task here is to heal, to become unified again, and to basically, we do that through our relationships. The only reason that anybody would ever experience loneliness is because of that fragmentation from that oneness, okay? So you can be alone, but not lonely, okay? You could be surrounded by people and lonely all the time because you're not connected. So many times, I think the point I'm trying to make here is that so many times we try to apply old thinking to new problems that we're facing. And that really doesn't get us anywhere at all. It keeps us small and it keeps us enslaved into the old programs. So yes, we have to use what we've learned, but we have to approach everything with an open mind, meaning there can be a new solution, okay? There can be new tools. Everything is new and updating all the time. And so if we're just waiting to reunite, if we think that we can come with the old and try to solve a new issue, it's really not going to work. It's not going to be like the best solution, okay? So we need to, part of our task is to kind of unite all of these different aspects of ourselves, all these different relationships. We do that by really staying honest, not going into denial or suppression or negative emotions. We want to have positive thinking and knowing that when we are being reactive to something, we're contributing to that separation energy, okay? So this process is part of the process that we're going to be going throughout the 7 weeks. Where we have to stay open-minded and understand that we need to kind of appreciate our relationships such as they are, okay? And it can be very difficult to elevate our relationships because maybe there's a lot of karmic debt, for example, or there's communication errors. But now, beginning on April 17th, we're getting this opportunity to understand these different aspects of ourselves so that we can remove any kind of blockages that are preventing us from blessings, okay? And winging it, you guys, is not going to cut it, okay? We have to prepare throughout these 7 weeks for that energy of soulmate in Gemini, because then also we can also really access this amazing energy of what's called immortality, which means is longevity, having relationships or projects that are lasting, health that is lasting, wealth that is lasting, life that is lasting. And so that's why through each of the 7 weeks, I'm creating these different guided meditations with the minor arcana to help you access the energy that's available. Each week is going to be building upon the previous, and we're focusing on these different layers of our karma, essentially, that we need to work with. And then we can activate the positive qualities of each aspect that we need to adopt so we can, once again, access the blessings beyond those blockages. So the purpose of the 7-week journey, you guys, is to kind of walk us through and to help us detach ourselves from the degrees of separation so that we can really come into union with ourselves and also with others. And the 7 weeks, they are not an easy spiritual experience, but they will make us stronger and they will make us more equipped to handle and to attain that energy of union, because intimacy can be really difficult for a lot of people. We go through all kinds of tricks and traps and barriers to avoid being intimate, because it's very hard to show people who we are because we have to show our vulnerabilities. Now, on a material level, these weeks can strengthen our current relationships, or they can give us the strength to see through relationships that are not really so strong, okay? At the end of the 7 weeks, we will find, if we're doing the work, that our lives and our choices are more authentic, and we will be able to accomplish some degree of union, or to see what's blocking us from it so that we can take action. So we have to think about, what is it that we want to program or reprogram throughout these 7 weeks, because as we're going through the different dimensions, we're going to be granted access to different kind of source code files that we can rewrite. So this is essentially, you guys, taking us on a journey out of the addiction of knowledge and of any type and into true paradise. And I have to say that our smallness, like our ego smallness, will be tested. Our slavery consciousness will be tested, and we will need to use everything we can to not apply our trauma and our problems to today's promises and opportunities. We want to accomplish a state of freedom from that smallness as we are reconnecting to the areas of our life where we have disconnected from greatness. So whatever we find ourselves deprived of, or whatever we feel like we're lacking and we're trying to get from the outside, that's a disconnection. That's not what we want to do. The whole premise of these 7 weeks is essentially about our spiritual issues, which means that they do not exist in time and space, okay? We are working beyond that. However, it's within time and space where we can do something about it. So the problem isn't here, but we can do something about it here and understand that it's like, well, put it this way. Sometimes things are here, then they're not here. It was here, then it wasn't here. How many times has this happened to us? So you could say that this is a transformation. This is a shift. And in spirituality, when we understand this is happening all the time, things are shifting all the time, okay? Things exist, they don't exist. I was in this reality, now I'm in that reality. And that's when we are doing our work, we're putting in our best effort, we're doing the best that we can, and then things shift. But when we are stuck and holding on, we're stuck in duality, okay? We are small, we're complaining, we're blaming, and then we don't get anywhere. So we have these 7 different weeks that we can reprogram. The energy of the flow of love, for example, the blockages to love, beauty, perseverance, our ability to have intuition or wealth, and that energy of manifestation as well. And throughout the 7 weeks, we're going to be working with what's called the minor arcana, which means the small secrets. And we work with the minor arcana because in the tarot, you have the major arcana, which is the 22 archetypes, and they are like this intense divine energy. And then you have the minor arcana, which are really describing the human experience, okay? This is really more where we live as humans, okay? And these cards that we're going to be working with every week, different cards every week that are connected to that dimension, they're kind of like windows. And we learn that each of these cards, they teach us a secret. And these cards, they really let the light in through that dimension, granting us access into this dimension. And these images are giving us access going both ways, like bringing us energy into our life and then also letting us into that energy as well. So, but we have to make sure that our windows are clear, the portals are clear, and that's what we're doing throughout the 7 weeks. We're clearing the portals so that we can really understand what's going on and access all those opportunities. Okay? So I will be talking about the opportunities for each and every week over those 7 weeks. You can sign up, or if you haven't already, and you can understand what's available each and every week. So first week, we're tapping into that flow of love, understanding what it's like to be on a journey and the vulnerabilities that are there and how we can protect ourselves. The next week, we're working on the blockages of love, understanding how we shouldn't use our judgment all the time, but we should allow ourselves to kind of cut off from the ego and get our ego to work for us. And then the next week is we are working with that energy of beauty and strengthening our immune system, which is absolutely amazing because, I mean, in this time, we really absolutely need to have like a strong immune system and understand what we're resisting and what we should be open to as well, okay? And then the next week, we're going to be understanding about what does it mean to kind of be victorious, okay? How we can be victorious in any venture. And then the following week after that is we're going to be working with humility, how we can be more humble and understanding more of the secrets of the universe. Because the thing is that if we don't understand the language of the universe, there's no way that we'll be able to recognize the signs. There's no way. It's like if you go to a country, you don't understand the language, you're gonna have no idea what's going on. So we need to constantly learn that we need to learn what is the language here that nature is trying to tell us so that we can see the signs, because that's what this is about. That's totally what this is about. What are the signs? Okay? And then implementing the teachings into our life, okay? And then we're going to be working with wealth and abundance, which is amazing because we're going to be increasing our self-value. And then finally, we're working with that energy of manifestation, understanding that energy of transformation, and being able to bring that energy of heaven onto earth. So I'm really excited to see you guys there. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best throughout these 7 weeks. This is just like a little bit of an intro I wanted to share with you guys to just kind of raise awareness and consciousness about it. But we'll do the real work throughout the 7 weeks meditations in the events that you can sign up for if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.